but I still show up.
Mm-hmm.
And I put my game face on because that's important to me. No matter how tired I am, no matter how much I've laid out there today, my kids want to show me something, and that's important to me, and that's a responsibility as a dad.
Mm.
In work, as a leader, you're in charge of the success of your team. Hey everyone, welcome to Crossroad Conversations with the Lewis Brothers, where we aim to share real stories about running a successful family business, working through adversity, and pouring back into the community that keeps our door open. We're your hosts, Matt, Shelby, and Taylor, and we bring you relevant local business advice and automotive insights that are sure to change the way you look at running a business, and maybe even throw in a plug for you to do business with us. Welcome to Crossroad Conversations with the Lewis Brothers. Taylor and I are in studio today.
Yep.
Episode 65. Man, I like this one. Why? Because I feel like that there's a lot of leaders out there that can relate to this one.
Yep.
So go ahead and crank up the volume because today we're talking about leading on empty.
Yep.
You know, everybody always talks about when they're on their high or like things are always great. Let's talk about the real world, Taylor. Let's talk about when you're drained, there's nothing else left in the tank, but you know you still got to show up, that you still got to be a leader. You know what? And as leaders, we don't like to admit that. We don't like to show vulnerability. We don't like to show weakness.
Mm-hmm.
But everybody can see it.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean? Like when you're at the bottom of the tank on reserve or double reserve or whatever you want to call there, just trying, you still show up, you still make decisions, you still get things done, but on the inside, you know, you're drained, you're unsure, or you're just not the person that today. Leadership isn't always about feeling qualified. It's about leading even when you don't.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and leaders talk about low confidence moments. They talk about when they're failing. People follow consistency, not perfection. And I think if you don't get anything else out of the episode, but I do encourage you to listen to the whole thing, is that consistency is the key, not perfection.
Mm-hmm.
Not perfection. You got to show up on the days you don't want to.
Yep.
You got to show up consistently every day, not just on your best days.
Absolutely. That's how the abnormal win and outperform the high performers.
Man, you're so right. I can't wait to get started on that.
Oh, yeah. Before we do, we got to dive back into episode 64.
Okay.
Momentum problem. How to get your team moving again whenever you've hit a wall. That was so good, so fun to be able to talk about there, but so important because so many of y'all run into this problem of what happened? We completely stopped. We were rolling. Something happened. So how to adjust, move forward, keep moving, get over the problem, and accelerate your team. Go back and check that out. Hey, always check us out online, lewissuperstore.com for all the specials we've got going on, crossroadsconversationpodcast.com for all of our, we're up to 65 now, episodes that have been relevancy of in the business, in the community, have people on here, so check that out. But we got to get into what's in the garage.
Ooh.
And it's the Bronco. We've talked about this, but there's so many different options they've brought out, and what they finally have brought out.
Okay.
We knew they needed to, and this is bred from competition.
Sure.
Just like Jeep we talked about a couple weeks ago, they finally got the technology, the power seats, the creature comforts. You know what Jeep was doing so good that Bronco was not doing, and we were staring at it like, come on, is the color matched hardtop.
That's what I love about competition. Now, we're a little biased because whether you pick Jeep or you pick Bronco, we're good to go.
Yep.
Okay. But it allows the quality to go up. It allows technology to go up in advancement, but it also drives the price down.
Oh, yeah.
Because they get highly competitive because they want market share. And that's what we're seeing happen, especially on the Bronco.
Oh, yeah. They've readjusted because there was a hype like you've never seen when those dudes came back from being gone for almost 20 years. Since the full-size one was in the mid-90s, finished up in 96, which was such a good vehicle. Ford knew they needed to bring it back. It was an all-time high. Well, the manufacturers saw that and started to escalate their price up, but they're quick to adjust, and they brought it back down to relevancy and to match the market of a Wrangler, of the Land Cruiser, of anything else staying relevant in the market, but bringing all the value to it.
And we got the selection there, whether you're looking for a 2-door or 4-door, we're your one-stop shop for.
Yeah, I mean, I'm starting in below 40 grand for standard goat modes, 4-wheel drive, hard top, And what I love on the lower models, they've come standard with the 12-inch screen that's Apple CarPlay, the digital instrument cluster. So all the features that make sense. It used to be on the 60 to 70,000, now are sub 40,000, and you're getting into that. So really big deal there of what's in the garage. And if Bronco's not your niche of what you want, we have Wranglers and have every single thing you can think of in that range.
Absolutely. All right. So on today's episode, we're talking about when the leader's drained. And can we just be vulnerable and honest for a minute before we get farther into this? You only have so many days when you're at your peak. Like if you think about the past year. And I'm not talking about normal days, but like a day where you just feel like you're hitting on all 8 cylinders, your mind's clear, you're on it, you're solution-based, you're focusing, and you're rocking and rolling. That's only a handful, isn't it?
Oh, yeah.
I don't know about you, but me, I mean, that's only a handful.
Oh, yeah.
You know, that I'm not having to drag myself through it, go, okay, it's meeting time. I got to have game face on. Here we go. And I'm not talking about that because, you know, it's been this or that, but just life and family and all the rest of it going on. So if that's the case, and you know, here, we're going to bring you the real truth, is most of the TikToks you watch out there and all these get rich quick and do this, they're only talking about at the peak of their game. Well, we want to talk about the normal day, and we also want to talk about when you're just drained, but you still know you got to show up.
Oh, yeah.
You know, feeling like you're faking it even if you're not succeeding.
Yes, absolutely. And you don't realize you don't realize how low, how far in the reserves you are until you take time to sometimes step back and recharge. I love that you hit on that. And all of us as brothers are really positive people, and we help bring each other up. But yesterday I just got back from being out of the office and had been gone to a dealer meeting, and then took time and went to fish a fishing tournament with my buddy and got back.
Sure.
It was like I was headed back to school for the first day. I was jacked. I came in and was already a couple of coffees deep before I even started going through the meeting. The guys were like, whoa, slow down. Taylor is jacked up. And I was rocking through there. And then I got going halfway through the day. I'm like, am I really that different than what I normally am? You don't realize it unless sometimes you step back and really see, hey, I need to be able to adjust here so that my team can grow and see that.
I think that's important. And so there's a couple takeaways so far, and this is going to be a great episode. But the first is Taylor just hit on that if you don't take time to take care of yourself, there's no way you can give a high level of your team. And I am we all are, but I am a very determined, very competitive person. Okay. And I mean, I can work a lot of hours. I have tons of endurance. I'm built with that engine. But just because I can go for hours upon hours and days upon days, and I've gone years without a day off before, did not mean I was bringing the best. In my mind, it had convinced me that if I'll just keep working harder and I'll keep grinding and I keep the plow on the ground, that success will come on the other side. And it did. But if I would have taken the time to refuel myself, gone fishing like Taylor talked about, okay, to come back as a better version, what would that have done for the rest of my team?
Yeah, and that's hard to do sometimes. You as a leader, you as the guy that's dragging the group, that's helping them fix problems. And a lot of times you will find that and we talked about this yesterday, I was checking up on the team, obviously, whenever I was out. But whenever you work so hard for a team and you pour so much into them, sometimes you got to unplug. And guess what's going to happen whenever you unplug? Your team wants to do good for you. And they want to show and say, hey, we want him to have time off, but we want to show him that we can do this.
Absolutely.
And we had a banner weekend. A banner weekend that was huge. But sometimes your team can't ever step up to that next level if you don't take the minute to recharge for yourself.
So that's the side of here's what you should do to refuel yourself. And you guys have heard me talk about the pitcher of water before. You got a full pitcher of water and you got 5 glasses you're pouring it into. Pour 1, pour 2, pour 3, pour 4, pour 5. The pitcher's then empty. Okay. So then those 5 Cups, they represent 5 managers you're over, and they start pouring their cups individually out to the rest of their team.
Yep.
When they're empty, they come back to you to refill the glass so it can keep flowing down. Well, if your pitcher's empty, okay, and you're shaking every little bit out of it, and you never take the time to refill your pitcher, you've got nothing else to pour into, okay? And sometimes, now let's be honest, okay? You're like, okay, man, that sounds great, Taylor. I'm glad you went fishing, blah, 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 blah. That ought to be nice. Yeah, whatever.
Okay.
We've heard it all, okay?
Yeah.
So what about if you're just starting a business up or you don't have enough employees under you yet? You want to get to that. You want to be able to go play golf or take your family to Branson or whatever.
It is.
There's this storm that we've all gone through of showing up even when we didn't want to show up, pushing forward as a leader even when we didn't want to.
Yep.
And you just got to do it.
You have to.
You got to do it. And I can tell you this, and I'm going to relate this a little bit to endurance. And for y'all that are sick and tired of hearing about like our running events, so what? Listen. And here's why in the ultra world, when you're out there talking to people, the majority of them are entrepreneurs. And the reason they are, I'm not talking about a mile race or a 5K. I'm talking 50 miles, 100 miles. And the reason why is they're problem solvers and they have the ability to push forward even when they don't want to. Yep. And here's what happens. And this is what teaches you in endurance sports is that you'll be going through a bad phase. Let's say at mile 42, your knee hurts. Okay. And you still got 60 left. And you keep pushing through, and all of a sudden, in 10 miles later, everything's great, and you're back on a high. And that's how I relate that to business. When you get out of bed in the morning, you're like, son of a gun, my day's loaded up, and you walk in the door, and somebody hits you with something stupid that's not really that important, okay? And you're like, can these people just not figure this out? But if you'll keep pushing forward and you'll keep showing up, then all of a sudden it hits 10:30 or 11 o'clock. And then boom, it's smooth sailing.
Yes.
Or maybe the day started off great, and then at 11 o'clock, a storm of customers coming in that they didn't get their extra key from 5 years ago. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
And you're like, get me through this. And at 2 o'clock, boom, all of a sudden you got 5 people in finance.
Yep. And you're rolling through it. And it happens. Don't let yourself be tripped up because it's not if, it's when, and it definitely will happen. I'd walked in the other day. I love stories because stories they sell more of what you're trying to go over and sell the truth of it. But I'd been gone to the meeting, got back. It was 6:30. I drove all the way from Tulsa, came back over here. There happened to be a salesperson who was sitting on the side. I walked in and he's like, Taylor, I've been waiting for you all day long. And I'm like, are you? I started to go through my head. I was like, okay, buddy, what are you waiting on? He's like, I want to see if this vehicle, when it's coming in. I said, great. Did you meet with your managers? And he said, yeah, I just didn't think they could look at it. I said, hold on. So we walked in and I said, hey, have you talked here? You'll get something so silly like that. The keys of people coming in. Don't let that trip you up. Don't let that trip you up because where I looked at it as was like, hey, I'm blessed to be able to be in this position. Walk them back over, reintroduce them to the process. If it's not a reoccurring issue, help the person out. Be glad that you're in the situation that you are because I signed up for this. I want to do it. I want it to be successful. And that's what continues to drive you whenever you wake up in the morning. Your phone's already ringing off the hook. And it's very easy for someone that's not in our shoes to say, hey, just take a day off or you don't have to go in today. You don't have to do that. You're like, nope, this is what I signed up for.
I think couple things I want to hit on there is remind me about the day off in a minute. But first I need to go back to, Taylor talked about, the person that was waiting for him to answer that question. As a leader, you have a responsibility. And it's no different than if your kids ask you to do something or they ask you a question or they wanted to show you. I'll get home sometimes and I'm just whipped. I've laid it all out there. And I walk in and my kids are really excited to show me either what they've built, what they did at school today, how they did in practice, whatever it may be. And I'm blessed to have 3 kids. So by the time I get through all 3 of them, and that's a lot when I'm already drained, but I still show up.
And I put my game face on because that's important to me. No matter how tired I am, no matter how much I've laid out there today, my kids want to show me something, and that's important to me, and that's a responsibility as a dad. In work, as a leader, you're in charge of the success of your team. So never be too tired to listen to them where they want to tell you about their success or they have a question for you. Your responsibility, just like to your kids, and I know I'm crossing over a little bit there, but just like to your kids, your responsibility is to help them to be successful. If your team underneath you is not successful, here's a news flash for you. You're not successful. You're just not. And if you're like, oh, no, Matt, I was the best in my position before. Great, that was before.
Yep.
You've now been elevated to help 5, 6, 7, 10, 15, 20 people be successful just like you were when you were just one. And in order to do that, nobody cares how much you know until they know how much you care about them. You've got to take the time to do that.
Oh, yeah.
And that means that's what this episode's about. That means even when you're tired and you got nothing else to give, you got to show up and you got to care and you got to be ready to rock and roll. Now let's go to the other side of the day off. That's why if you interview with us or you're especially in the car business, y'all that aren't in the car business, this might not relate as much because we're in the retail business, is we can't force, but we highly encourage people to take their day off. We're not working Sundays. Everybody gets at least one Saturday off. Why? Because at a surface level, that looks like a bad business decision. You need to be here. You need to, for retail customers, you got to grind it out. You got to put in the time. While that's necessary, what's also necessary is you're the best version of yourself. And the only way that you can do that is when you step away, not for a week at a time, but you step away and you get refueled. You connect with your family or your hobbies or whatever else that may be.
Yeah.
So as a leader, don't get caught in that trap letting somebody burn the candle at both ends, because that's what will happen. Then you'll look up and they'll move to a different job.
That's really big, and that's so important to know and be able to do that. No, you're never going to feel like it sometimes, but it's so important. And this goes back to our favorite quote from Zig Ziglar: "You help enough other people achieve their goals, your goals will far surpass of what you're wanting it to be."
That's so good. All right, let's flip to another side of it.
Yep.
All right, what about pressures to always have the answers versus admitting that, hey, I don't have the answer here?
That's deadly, because sometimes you get going really quick and you as the leader want to be, yeah, I know that they're coming to me.
Yep.
And you don't want to push them off. But more times than not, if you will slow down, we say this, slow down to speed up. I say, hey, Matt, give me just a minute and let me really think about that.
You bet.
And I'll get back with you. Now, and this is something that you're going to know a lot of the answers, but where this is talking about pressure to have the answers versus admitting you don't, it's okay. And it probably speaks more volume in your team's eyes if I admit and say, hey, Matt, give me just a minute and let me really dive into that.
Sure.
And we'll meet back.
That's so good. I hope everybody's grasping that. And I'm telling you, I didn't for years and years. When I was first growing up in my career, I had it in my mind, and this is what happens when you're in your low 20s too, but, not having wisdom and you're just full of it. I really thought to be the best leader, I had to fully understand and be the best in every position. And that's from service advisor to parts person to counter, to accounting, to body shop, to technician. And that's just simply not the truth. Now, I need to know about each of those areas. And I know enough questions to have a conversation with a technician about what's going on in the internal part of the engine where somebody can't bluff me. I know enough about digital marketing to ask the right questions. But can I write code? No, I can't. Do I place all the ads on Google? No, I don't. But I know enough to be able to manage that. And I'll tell you a great example. And I was studying this guy, just happened to be this past week. And it was a guy that took over Ford back in 05. Back in 05 when Ford wasn't doing as well.
Yeah.
Not at all. And he comes in, and he comes in from a completely different realm of work. He comes in from Boeing, an aircraft company.
Oh, yeah.
He wasn't even a car enthusiast. And he comes back in, and with his leadership, he doesn't know the answers to producing vehicles. He doesn't understand, like the assembly line in the car and how the dealer network works and all the rest of that. But what he understands is leadership, and he understands when he doesn't know the answer that he puts a team around him that does know the answer. And Malawi is this gentleman's name, and he turns the company completely around, being that a lot of people would say he's not a car guy, he doesn't understand the automotive business, and he's never had a dealer network to work with. And he comes in and completely turns it around. And when you study CEOs out there that go from this type of work to that type of work, you're like, how did they do that? They couldn't have known everything that went on in that industry. They didn't. They didn't have those answers. But what they had was a really solid set of leadership skills. And they would admit, hey, I don't have the answer to that, but let me research it and I'll get it back to you. Then he had the right people around him.
That's so solid to be able to know. And I love the story of him. There was some people, critics, and there'll be critics in everything that you do. Know this, even at that level, critics that were hammering him was saying, he doesn't know about the automotive industry. He hasn't been in it before. He doesn't know about reliability. And he said, hey, the things that I was working on, one of his quotes went over said, I can't pull over on the side of the road. Boeing aircraft,
That's right.
They were flying through the air. So he kind of threw it back at him there, and I love that.
That's so good.
Surround a team around yourself, and it's okay to say, hey, I'm not saying I don't know, and I'm not going to figure out. Give me just a minute. Let me address that, and we'll dive into it deeper. So
that's right. That's
always do that, because if you ever say something wrong there and you keep leading into it and then your team figures out, hey, they don't know and they're just filling me full of hot air, you lose a whole lot of value that's hard to get back.
Yeah, that's true. Very true. Very true. That's good stuff. Good stuff.
That is. Hey, a little would you rather here. Drive the same car forever or switch every 6 months?
Okay, I think this is a misconception out there, and this is one of those things that it wears out pretty quick.
Yep.
And I'll tell you, because I've been driving the same truck almost now for 2 years.
Yeah.
Okay, which I know some of you are like, yeah, I've had my car for 5 years. Well, in our realm, that just doesn't go that way. And it's not because we want to switch trucks every 3 to 6 months. It's what's best for the market. We study the depreciation. When we get in vehicles, it's, hey, what's a vehicle we would like to drive, but we have a high availability, so we're not removing it, from a one-off like a Raptor or a TRX or something like that. But then it's going to lose the least amount of money. So that usually is in the 3 to 6 month.
Yep.
Now, what happens there is that sounds really fun until you put all your stuff in a vehicle. Okay. And then it's got to be ready to sell at any point in time. And then you got 3 kids, and especially when you had all the car seats in there.
Yes.
So, I don't know. You answer it from there.
Of course, it's fun to switch vehicles around and always have something that it's fun and new to bring value to the market. You'll never find us with something that's just the absolute most crazy, but brings good value. But probably the hardest part about it, and then Shelby will always give a hard time, he's got a box, and he's died laughing before because he'll come out where his truck was, and there'll be just a box sitting in the parking spot that has all this stuff in it. So you got to be willing to be able to get out of it.
And I'll tell you, you're like, well, Matt, why have you been in yours for 2 years? Well, when we were in the middle of construction, I had so much construction stuff in the back of my truck. Contractor. The site was muddy. Everything else. So I had a pair of boots in there, all-weather mats, tape, flags, paint, all this stuff that they needed. And I was driving on the site, and I was like, I'm going to go to the auction, buy a really low mileage used vehicle that I can drive for a couple years.
Yep.
So somebody's not trying to show my vehicle with red clay in it. So you got to read the situation.
Absolutely. And be able to go from there. All right. Diving into when you're burned out, but still responsible. We kind of talked about this a little bit in the previous segment. Showing up when the energy's gone, why leaders burn out faster than teams. We kind of talked about that, but dive into that, why that happens. I think it's because we talked about obviously not giving yourself the time to recharge, and you continue to go.
You do. So first you got to show up, and there's a little bit of, you got to put the game face on, but you got to be careful. Like, don't go out of control. Because if you're just out of control, people can see that you're faking it
Yep.
there. And I've had plenty of people come up to me and be like, man, Matt, how'd you have that high level of energy? And I've learned over my years to control my energy and during a meeting, let it rip when I need to, but then pull back when we have certain points to hit on. And that comes from cadence and level of energy. But I know when I'm getting ready to walk into that meeting, no different than walking on stage, is they all came to have a positive meeting and to leave there more energized than when they got there. So that's my responsibility no matter what. And there's times I got to dig really deep to bring that level of expectation.
Yep.
But then there's other times that I'm going through the day and maybe you got to organize your day that way because you know that you're low on energy or you know that you're just wore out and just give me some monotonous stuff to work on for a little bit.
Yep.
And you schedule that. But you could take your pieces you need to do throughout the day and organize those based upon your current energy level, mental capacity, whatever else it may be, adjust some things if you need to. Don't just leave and throw your hands up.
Yeah.
There's plenty of things at pricing on vehicles. That doesn't take a whole lot of energy. Looking through inventories and accounts. It takes mental energy, but not necessarily this high-end, hyper energy level wise. So just flip-flop some of that stuff. You can still be highly productive.
Yeah.
I've told some guys that have come in before that, maybe they weren't feeling well or maybe their kids had, something they were exposed to and they're like, man, I don't want to get anybody else sick. I'm like, okay, well, let's do this with your day. What we're going to do is you grab your laptop, go to one of the offices, shut the door, and here's what you're working on. You're cleaning up inventory. You're working through heat sheets. You're looking for any accounts we hadn't been paid on. You can still be highly productive. Just readjust your day.
Absolutely. That's so important to know there. And I love that you find that solution within your daily task and it still makes you have a very successful day. But you just made that small pivot to make a big difference. Instead of either having like a light switch on or off, like I'm either here or I'm not.
Yeah. Just adjust.
Just adjust.
We see it's easy to talk about football because we're in the middle of football season. How many quarterbacks get up to the line and adjust based upon the defense? Or what happens if their star running back gets hurt?
Oh, yeah.
They don't give up on the game.
No.
They go, okay, we got to adjust our game plan a little bit. The backup running backs can come in here.
Yeah.
We'll give him some shots. But if our offense was centered mainly around the running back, now we got to integrate in some passing.
Yep.
And you just got to adjust. Just adjust and play to your strengths. And those are different each day sometimes.
Yeah, absolutely. That's good. The pressure always to be the strong one, I think that just naturally comes from being the leader, being the guy that's obviously in charge of the group and really that's taking the role of leading the team.
I agree. I do not think being the strong one correlates at all to being the one that's in the spotlight.
No.
You can be the strong one while giving others the spotlight.
Yeah.
And I like doing that for so many reasons. But one, it encourages that person. Number two, it puts the light on really the one that put the work in there. Even if you helped and you supported them. And then two, it can take the light off of you to open up your capacity to work on other things. So I love complimenting somebody else, or if somebody starts to give me a compliment and it was really the guy next to me, I'm diverting that really quick. Really quick there. And that allows them to take that over. I can still be strong behind the scenes.
And we've seen that a lot whenever we have managers that are moving up the ranks, that a lot of times the ones naturally you would see one that's more vocal, more on the spotlight, isn't always necessarily the one that you're going to give more reins to. It's the guy that's working and going through the process there that really makes the difference that you dive into. So that's important to know there. This one I love jumping into. How do you recharge without dropping the ball? So it's time to leave. You're going to take a break. Okay, a couple days, turn the phone off as much as you can. You still don't turn the phone off if you're in charge of it. You're just not sitting in the middle of it. But how do you do that without completely just turning the switch off and saying,
wow, that's a tough one. And I think the easiest thing to do there is you go into that as well organized as possible and you come out of it. And what I mean by that is if I know that I've got X, Y, and Z scheduled, to be able to take a break or to go do this or that, I'm going to get as much done as I can, okay, that is of high relevancy, meaning that others are waiting on my response or direction there, okay? That's going into it. All right, coming out of it. So if I'm coming back the next day, even if it's from a meeting, I know that I'm going to have an influx of questions, either concerns, reports, whatever it may be. I'm gathering all that before I start taking action on anything. I'm first reviewing my list, and I've got a rolling list in my phone on like to-dos.
Yep.
I'm looking at my list of stuff that I wasn't able to get to, because if you really got a big enough list, then you're not going to be able to get to it all. So I'm looking at what was left undone. Okay, let me start there. Let me gather kind of a state of the union from everybody, figure out what needs to be addressed first, and then I'm coming out of it productive because I know what's most important.
Yeah, absolutely.
For sure. Yeah, that's a good one. I'm just, and then, making sure that you don't drop the ball. And we all get at a vulnerability stage of, man, I just don't need to be the one running the ball today. And that's tough as a leader, but you can ask and just divert and have somebody else take the role on that.
Yeah.
And just say, hey, can you help me with this? And if even, so quit looking at yourself like on your best day, your talent level versus anybody else, because that's where we get caught in, and look at, am I at my best today? Or am I at 50%? And that other guy that's 80% of me, he's actually above me today. Let me give him the ball.
Yeah. Step back. This is where I talked to early on, and you love to see it. It's no different than if it's your employees or if it's going through and it's your kids at home. Nothing makes you more proud than whenever you've poured into them and feel like you continue to pour and pour and pour into them. And then you see that, you step back and you're like, hey, I need help. Guess what? Whenever you ask for help, they will far exceed anything you could have done that day whenever you were drained so far. But then blow past and really show you, hey, they've really stepped up and they're going to help us there. So know that.
You know what, though? As men, how often do we ask for help?
Never. Never. As brothers, I laugh, and it's never, and we normally need help at this point.
Yes.
When it's been that we've had a 50-foot camper buried into something that was upside down. It wasn't like 911, I need help, which it should have been.
But
it was like, hey, if you're not doing anything, it doesn't matter if I am doing something. Call me and ask me to come help. I mean, we're all ornery about doing it, but in the text normally will go, hey, you doing anything? Like, what do you mean am I doing anything? If you need help, just ask. I'm happy to help. I've built a whole gazebo with Shelby before because he's texting me. He's like, you doing anything? No, let me come over. Hey, you help me move this Sphinx. And then I look 4 hours later and we built the whole gazebo.
I think that, but and I'm not the best at it. Let's just be honest. But there are times that then I ask for help and I look back and I'm like, dang, that was easy and they wanted me. Here's the crazy thing I can't get through my mind. And I can recite it and I can give a seminar on it, but it's tough for me to do it. Of people want to help you. Like they want you to ask. Your team wants you to ask.
They do.
They want to make you proud.
Yes.
But son of a gun, it's hard to ask.
Yes, absolutely. You're exactly right there.
That's good stuff, though.
Yeah.
Good stuff. I think as we wrap up there, it's really important just to know that there's going to be days that you don't feel the best.
Yeah.
There's going to be days that you don't want to show up, that you got to show up.
Mm-hmm.
And it's important to remember, and we'll finish this podcast this way, that consistency beats out perfection every once in a while. Okay? Now, I said that wrong.
Yeah,
but consistency always wins.
Yep.
When too many others look for perfection, but perfection only comes every now and then.
Mm-hmm.
And we talked about that in the beginning of the podcast of how many great days on it do you have? And if you're always waiting for those days, You'll never beat the person that was consistent every single day.
Mm-hmm.
We just got back from a meeting you were talking about, and I had one of the guys, and he's a general manager of a dealership. He said, "How often do you have sales meetings with your team?" And I said, "Every day." He said, "Really?" And I said, how often do you have it?" And he goes, "Usually probably about once a week." I said, "Well, is it structured when you're going to have it? Like, is it a set time?" He's like, "No, it kind of moves from week to week."
Mm.
And I said, "Well, how many days do you want to sell cars? How many days do you want your team to be productive?" And he was like, "Every day." And I was like, "Okay, that's why we have a meeting with them every day."
Mm-hmm.
And they're not always an hour long. We have our training meetings that are longer. They're always scheduled. But like Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, those meetings might be a 5 to 10-minute meeting.
Yep.
It's, "Hey, here's what happened yesterday. Here's our fresh trades. Here's our manager special for the day. Here's the appointments we need to get ready for." As a reminder to everybody, we need 50 activities, and you can get those through emails, phone calls, or text. And let me know how I can help you.
Mm-hmm.
But if you expect productivity from your team every single day, you need to be consistent. That's my
Yes.
point in this. No different than the leader showing up. Is you got to show up on all of those days. All of those days.
That's so important. In the doc this morning, I was talking to, if you're not having daily meetings, you can't make these small micro adjustments that lead up to a big change. This week is we're going over is Thanksgiving, and so with that adjustment, a lot of people travel.
Yep.
And I had some lady come in yesterday, and know this in the retail business, when somebody comes in frantic because something happened, no, it wasn't your fault, but they're looking for a solution. So it was a great time to be able to share with my team, hey, if I have to send somebody to drive to go pick up a part 4 hours away, we're doing it.
That's right.
If this person we have to fix their car, if this person we have to go drive over here to look at their car to look at it and help them get into a new vehicle, they don't want an objection that
Sure.
makes it more difficult. Well, without having those micro meetings that are very quick and we're changing, you'd completely miss that. We show back
Absolutely.
up Friday, you're after Thanksgiving, no one's even here, and you would completely miss that. So,
Yeah, that's
so important to have that. So important to have that. Finish it off there. We'll hit you with this, and then we will finish off episode 65 for today. But one thing that I'm still figuring out. So, what's one thing that you're still figuring out through your career here that really sticks out to you?
Doing a better job allowing others to do tasks for me.
Mm, yeah.
So let's call that empowering others.
Yep.
And learning how to lead at even a higher level. And we're going through that right now about putting in another layer of management
Mm,
so that we can take everything we've developed and continue to expand upon it.
yeah.
But, we all come from boots on the ground, ear to the ground, involved in it. And I don't want to lose that. But some of that you have to be able to give up to open up capacity in other areas.
You do. I'm going to piggyback off of that. That's so big. And obviously, as brothers and partners of going through it, that is the exact same thing. You bring these things on, things we've always wanted, we've inspired to have in this business, and you bring it on, and you're so proud of it. No different than one of your kids, one of you share the same thing with coworkers. But I brought in a new system, I brought in a new process, and it brings so much value that you lose sight sometimes of and we'll make it as easy as locking this door. I always have to be the one that locks this door.
Yep.
And that's so simple, but that relates to everyone that's listening to this. Empower other people around you. Still have the checks and balances.
Yep.
Still hold them accountable. Empower other people so they can do that.
Yep.
And you can bring next level value to your team.
Man, that's so good. Hey, thanks for joining us today for this episode.
Mhm.
We appreciate you guys and the questions you've sent in. That helps us bring relevant
does.
information out there. So keep doing that. And it'd mean the world to us if you'd subscribe. And hey, leave us a review too, so others out there can hear some leadership advice.
Yeah.
There's been plenty of people that have poured into us to get us to this stage. We want to be able to reciprocate and do the same thing. And this is a way we get to do that. So you guys have great holidays, and make sure to share this episode. Check us out at lewissuperstore.com or crossroadconversationpodcast.com.
Hey, thanks for joining us today, and we hope you enjoyed this episode. Make sure to give it a like, share it with your friends and family, visit our website, and send us some questions. We want to know what you'd like to hear, who you'd like to hear from, and what you want to see, or maybe even some questions for us to answer about either the automotive industry or just business in general.